Today we're going to talk about the multiplication property of equality. This property states that if A equals B, then A times C equals B times C, where C is not equal to 0. Let's take a look at this statement. We have A equals B. A just represents the left-hand side of any equation, and B represents the right-hand side. So if you're given any equation, you can go ahead and multiply both sides of that equation by the same number, in this case C, and the equation will still be true. You're not actually really changing the equation in any way. What I want to look at is this C does not equal 0. Why do we not want C equal to be 0? Well, let's take something like x plus 2 equals 7. If you decided to multiply both sides of that equation by 0, here's what's going to happen. The left-hand side, if we look at the x plus 2, x just represents a number, and 2 represents a number. When you add two numbers together, you get another number. Why am I saying this? Because really, we're just multiplying 0 by a number, and any number times 0 is going to be equal to 0. When we look at the left-hand or the right-hand side, we have 7 times 0. That's also going to be equal to 0. So by multiplying both sides of this equation by 0, we get 0 equals 0. That didn't solve anything for us. The point of the equation was to figure out what x was equal to, and now we can't do that because we got rid of the x. So all the variables and all the numbers will go away if you multiply both sides by 0. Let's take a look at this example. We have a negative n over 5 equals negative 3. If you have a negative out front of a fraction like this one here, you can actually move it either up with the numerator or down with the denominator. You just can't give it to both. So we can actually rewrite this as n over negative 5. I would suggest putting the negative sign with the number, not the variable, because then the variable would not be by itself, which is kind of the goal that we want. And we can just rewrite the negative 3 on the right-hand side. Now what we want to do is get that n all by itself, and since it's being divided by a negative 5, we want to multiply, because multiplication is the opposite of division. To undo division by a negative 5, we multiply by that negative 5, because those are going to undo each other. Thinking back to our property, we now have multiplication by a negative 5 on the left-hand side. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other side. Now we can go ahead and simplify. We have negative 5 times n over negative 5. If you want, you can rewrite it as negative 5n divided by negative 5. That's equal to negative 3 times negative 5, which is 15. Since we're dividing negative 5 and negative 5, these two are going to cancel out, leaving us with just n equals 15. Now that we have the variable by itself, we're finished solving the equation. Anytime you solve an equation, you can always go ahead and check your answer to make sure that you did it correctly. And you can do that by rewriting the equation. And when you rewrite it, notice we found that n was equal to 15. So we're going to substitute 15 in for n, and then see if we get a true statement. We can go ahead and simplify. Negative 15 divided by 5 is negative 3. Yes, negative 3 is equal to negative 3. So we can go back to that 15 that we found, and yes, 15 is the solution for n. Looking at this next example, we have negative 6 equals y over 3. Again, we're trying to get y by itself since that's the variable, and it's being divided by 3. The opposite of division is a multiplication, and we want to multiply by 3 to undo that division by 3. We're going back to that property, so since we multiplied one side of the equation by a number, we must multiply the other side by the same number. Now we can go ahead and simplify both sides. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. And if you want, you can rewrite this as 3y over 3, and you'll notice your 3's are going to cancel out. So we'll have negative 18 equals y. If you want to, you can rewrite this as y equals negative 18. Now we want to go ahead and check to see if that solution is really the correct solution. So again, we want to rewrite our original equation. And since we found that y equals negative 18, we're going to plug in negative 18 in place of y. Now we can go ahead and simplify. Negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6. Since this is a true statement, negative 6 is equal to negative 6, then y equals negative 18 is the correct solution. To sum up the multiplication property of equality, if you ever have an equation and you multiply one side of the equation by a number, you must multiply the other side of the equation by that same number to keep it equal. And that's the multiplication property of equality.